Hey there, everybody! It's that time of the week again. I'm filming this a little later than normal because we're a little busy last night, so I didn't get a chance to do this last night. So I'm doing this here on a Sunday morning. So the Power Performance Index, we've only got a couple more weeks left before the playoffs come around. And yeah, the races are heating up. Now, of course, the Power Performance Index at the bottom, not really heating up because unfortunately staying in the same spot. They're 1-8-1 in their last 10, and that is Chicago. They are just waiting for the draft lottery right now, and to figure out where they're going to be, where they're going to pick. And yeah, it's a mess in Chicago, and good young team. I do expect them to be better next year, but right now it's kind of ugly. Number 31, dropping one spot, and boy, have these guys created the last couple years. And I got to think this is just a one-off year. They've got to be better than last year, and that's Boston. So the Bruins, it is shocking to see them this low. Honestly, absolutely shocking to see them this low. They have just the crazy thing is they're not that far out of a playoff spot. I mean, no, I shouldn't say that because they're pretty far out now. But yeah, to see just how fast they've fallen from a couple years ago. Yeah, but I got to think this is just a one-off. That's kind of what I got to think. They got to be better next year, right? Theoretically. Number 30. These guys, they've actually won a couple in a row, and again, now it's kind of making you wonder: should they have fired John Tortorella a lot earlier? Because Philadelphia, they've actually won two in a row. They're still not good. They're still not that good. They're still not. Obviously they're not even close to a playoff spot. I mean, they're 8 points behind. It's just they're not getting in there. They're just not. But again, they've actually won a couple in a row, and maybe they've got some talent. There's some hope for the future. Number 29. These guys actually stay in the same spot. They went 1-1 this week. They actually went 4-6 in their last 10, so they haven't been horrible. And that's San Jose. So San Jose, progress, a little bit of progress. I mean, they're still the worst team in the league. Or is that Chicago? They're one of the worst teams in the league. Yeah, they're behind Chicago in the standings. But yeah, it's kind of ugly right now for But again, this is a team I think they're going to be better next year. And, again, they got a good crop of young talent, and we'll see what they do in the draft. Number 28, another team that I do think this year had to be a one-off, and I got to think they're going to be better next year. Nashville at 28, they look good in some games, and then they look not great in the others. I mean, they went 3-6-1. They're 3-6-1 in the last 10, so they're not great. But I mean, they have put some stretches together where they haven't looked bad, but just not enough. And it will be interesting to see what route they take in the offseason to improve this team. Number 27. They've dropped 4 spots. They've lost 3 in a row. And it was honestly looking like they could get into that playoff race in the East, and they've just kind of fallen out of it, and that's the Penguins. So the Penguins, yeah, they're not making the playoffs, but and again, this is another team. What are they going to do come in the offseason? What are they going to do in the draft? What are they going to do in free agency? What can they do in free agency? they got to figure something out because, I mean, with Crosby, Malkin, and Letang, they got to be coming into the last couple of years here. And, I know they want to get one more crack at a championship. We'll see, we'll see if they can improve next year. Number 26. They went 3-1 this week. And again, this team, they have flashes. They have flashes of what could be. They can never put it all together throughout an entire season. Buffalo. The Sabres are obviously going to miss the playoffs again for the 14th year in a row. But again, they have flashes. There are flashes. This team has flashes. Yes, I've said flashes way too often. They have these moments where just how can they not put it together for a whole season? They can't figure out how to do it for a whole season. It would be nice to see if they could put it together for a whole season, because if they could, they would be in this playoff race. But alas, they're not, and they're 26 this week. Number 25. This team looked like they were going to make the playoffs. They were on such a roll. They fired their head coach. They had an unbelievable coaching bump, and they were incredible for a good chunk of time, and then they just fell off a cliff. Detroit. So Detroit is 25, and yeah, they're not going to make the playoffs either, even though they're only 3 points behind. But again, I can't see them getting there. I just can't see it. They're too inconsistent. They're way too inconsistent, and it's not looking good. It really is not looking good, and they just, again, next year, what are they going to do in free agency? What are they going to do in the draft? What's the potential for Steve Yzerman's future? I don't know. Be interesting to find out, though, come the offseason. Number 24. They're 4-4-2 in their last 10. They actually stay in the same spot. Because, they went 1-1 on the week. And again, another team we kind of expect more from them. And that is Seattle. Seattle is, again, they're a team, I believe they have officially been eliminated from playoff contention. I think, yes, they have. And again, I think Seattle is, the potential is there. The potential is there for them. And it's just, again, can they put it together? It's very similar to Buffalo, although Buffalo's been doing it a lot longer, where the potential is there and then the disappointment. But yeah, that's Seattle 24. Number 23. Now, these guys, they're not making the playoffs either. They're probably going to get eliminated pretty soon. And but again, they're right there, and they're NHL 500. Can they stay at 500? Anaheim. So the Ducks, they're flirting with NHL 500. And they're looking, they look good. They have stretches where they look fantastic. But again, can they just, this year, not a lot was expected of them this year. But they're doing a lot better than I think a lot of people thought. And so, Anaheim at number 23 this week. Number 22. Now, they've lost 3 in a row. They're down 3 spots. And they're kind of out of the playoff race too right now, because there's one team that just, they just can't lose right now. But sitting at 22 is Utah. So Utah is, this was a relatively close race until it wasn't, And Utah, they're above 500. They're above NHL 500. They have 12 overtime loss points. but they're above five. They're above NHL 500, and that's a decent year for them. Their first year in Utah, like that's all right for them. We'll see what they can do next year. Hopefully, at the end of the season, they'll unveil their name, their logo, and we actually will have a proper name for the team, not hockey club. Don't be lazy. You're not a European soccer team. But yeah, Utah. I think the future is bright. I think in Utah. Number 21. Speaking of future being bright, the future for this team I think is very bright, and the wild card race in the East keeps flip flopping. Montreal. So the Canadiens right now, they're 2 points behind the New York Rangers in the wild card spot. They're tied with Columbus. That wild card race in the East is crazy for that one spot. And there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 teams. 5 teams in that are right there, that are within 3 points of, four teams that are out of the playoffs. The Rangers are sitting in the wild card spot right now. But yeah, Montreal looking really good, and I think they're going to be a fun team to watch in the next couple of years. Number 20. Now, I honestly think this team, they might just screw around good enough to get in. The Islanders. So the New York Islanders, and yes, they're one of those teams. They screw around, and then all of a sudden, when they need to turn it on, they flip the switch, they do, and they get in the playoffs. Could they do that this year? I think they could. It's entirely possible. But again, they've lost a couple in a row here recently. Yeah, they've lost 4 in a row. And honestly, because they lost 4 in a row, even though it's crazy, they stayed in the same spot, even though they've lost 4 in a row. But the way some of these other teams are, and honestly, they kind of got passed by a few teams, which is why they stayed in the same spot. But again, I think the Islanders are a team that could just mess around well enough to end up making it. We'll see if they can. Number 19. They're up 2 spots. And even though this team's 4-5-1 in their last 10, and they're only 1-1-1, they're sitting in the second wildcard spot right now in the East. That's the Rangers. Of course, the Islanders and the Rangers, why wouldn't they be next to each other? So the Rangers, they're also a team. So much more was expected. And I'm telling you, if they make the playoffs, if they get that second wild card spot, if I'm the Washington Capitals, I don't want to see them. I don't want to see them. They played them. The Rangers played Washington last year in the first round of the playoffs and absolutely destroyed the Capitals. 4-0. Not one game was even really close. So, yeah, if I'm the Capitals, I don't want to see the Rangers in that first round. Could it happen? It could. There's still a good number of games to go. But again, the Rangers, they've played 2 more games. The Rangers have played 74 games and are 2 points ahead. Montreal, Columbus, the Islanders have all played 72 games. The Red Wings have played 73. So, but again, those 2 games in hand that these teams have, that doesn't mean anything if you can't win them. Number 18. Moving up 4. They moved up 4 spots. They had a decent week. When they went 2-1, they're 3-6-1 in their last 10. But again, this is another team. They might screw on good well enough to make the playoffs, and I honestly would love to see it. Columbus. To see the Blue Jackets make the playoffs this year, I think would be absolutely fantastic. With the season they've had, everything before the season, for them to be where they are right now, totally unexpected. Totally unexpected, but awesome to see. And can they get in the playoffs? Yeah, we'll have to. We'll see. I think it would be fun. I think it would be real fun, and yeah. So yeah, we'll see what Columbus can do. Can they find their way into a playoff spot? That second wild card spot in the East literally changes from day to day. But they're number 18. Number 17. This team, oh, they're frustrating. They are frustrating because we know what's going to happen. We all know in Minnesota what is going to happen. They're going to make the playoffs. They're going to be the number 1 wild card most likely. Well, maybe the number 2 wild card because they're probably going to actually drop to the number 2 wild card spot because St. Louis just keeps on winning and the Wild keep losing. And they're currently tied in points. So the Wild still have the number 1 wild card, probably will drop to the number 2 wild card. I do think they're going to make the playoffs because I think they can hold off some of these other teams like Vancouver and Calgary. But what are they going to do when they get there? If they play Vegas, they're going to get destroyed. If they play Vegas, it'll probably be 5 games at the most. Minnesota, I don't have any faith in the Wild. I don't. I have no faith in them because it's Minnesota. It's what Minnesota teams do. They always look good for a while and then literally just right off the cliff. And that's kind of what the Wild have done. Even though injuries have been, have really hampered them this year. But I still don't expect much from them. And yeah, they're number 17. Number 16. Now they've dropped 2 spots. Even though, they've dropped 2 spots, they've lost 2 in a row, and they were right there in the race for that playoff spot. And mainly because of one team you still haven't seen up here for a while, it's kind of the wild card race in the West is kind of anticlimactic right now. That's the Flames. Even though they are outside the playoff race, where some people might say, how could you have the Wild at 17 and how could you have the Flames better when the Wild are better? Because the Flames are playing better. The Flames are actually playing better than Minnesota. They have been. And it's just, Calgary, they have their moments. They have their moments, but they can't do enough of them. And they're 7 points out of the playoffs, and even though they do have 3 games at hand on St. Louis, even if St. Louis loses those 3 and Calgary wins those 3, they're still a point behind them. So yeah, Calgary, I think their playoff chances are pretty much done. But there's still games to play, and can they stay in the top half of the board? I don't know. Number 15. Now, a team that's very inconsistent. They went 2-1-1 on the week. They're 5-4-1 in the last 10. They did win their last game, and they moved up 2 spots, and that is New Jersey. Now, the Devils are an interesting team, too. That playoff matchup is basically confirmed because, they have an 8-point lead over the New York Rangers in the Metropolitan Division. So, I can't see the Rangers catching them. But with the way New Jersey plays, I don't know. It's entirely possible that maybe they could get caught. I don't necessarily see it, but New Jersey's got to figure something out because, it's looking like that series against Carolina might be an ugly, ugly series for the New Jersey Devils. Number 14. Now this team, they're playing well. They're 2-0-1. They went 2-0-1 on the week. They're 5-3-2 in the last 10. They did lose their last game in a shootout. They end up moving up 1 spot. This is a team too. They were in that playoff chase, and then they kind of fell out of it. Vancouver. And yes, I'm using Johnny Canuck in this one. Vancouver is, again, expectations. Way too many expectations from last year. And the fans in Vancouver, they do it all the time. We do it here too with Minnesota. They have a good year, the expectations are there, and then they fall on their face. You can't have expectations in Vancouver. Just like you can't have expectations here in Minnesota, because they will fall flat on their face. And Vancouver is just, I mean, you know, there's talk that Tocchet might leave, and it's just, I mean, Tocchet just got there. He just got there, what, last year? And he's already going to leave? Yeah, Vancouver just can't seem to keep stuff straight. And, you know, there's still rumors that, you know, maybe they're going to trade Pettersson. You traded Miller. Why would you? But who knows? Who knows what Vancouver's going to do? But yeah, Vancouver, they're hanging in there, and again, they're just kind of hanging in there right now. Number 13. Now, again, the expectations for these guys were way higher. And again, they haven't been looking great. And, you know, they moved down 2 spots. They're 1-2 on the week, 5-4-1 in the last 10. They are still without, well, Draisaitl is back. McDavid is not yet, but the Oilers are, I mean, Draisaitl had 2 goals last night, which was huge in the game against Calgary. And the Oilers, they're going to play LA. It's pretty cut and dry. They're going to play the LA Kings in the first round again, which is why some people don't like the whole idea of the divisional playoff system, because you get the same matchups every year. But, you know, Edmonton's, they're very confusing to watch sometimes. Skinner went and got hurt, which they should have went out and got a goaltender at the deadline, but they didn't. And yeah, so the Oilers, they're kind of hanging in. They're tied with LA. It's going to be interesting to see who gets home ice advantage in that series, because if LA gets home ice advantage, the Oilers could be in trouble. Number 12, they move up 1 spot. They're on a 2-game win streak. They went 2-1 on the week. They are 7-3 in their last 10, and I would say they are pretty comfortable in a playoff spot right now. They are literally 8 points clear of the playoff line in the East, and that's the Ottawa Senators. So this is cool to see Ottawa in this position. To see the Senators in a playoff spot, looking like they're probably going to be the number 1 wild card, which would mean they would play the winner of the Atlantic Division, which, oh boy, could that be interesting. Especially if the Panthers were to win that division, because then you get the two Tkachuk boys playing each other in the first round. But this is good to see. And even though I think too, a lot of people look at Ottawa and are like, you know, they're overachieving, because I don't know if a lot of people thought they were going to be this good this year, but they are. They're playing well, and I think honestly, with Brady Tkachuk watching his brother hoist the Stanley Cup last year, I think that gave him some motivation, and yeah, he wants to have that same feeling. So yeah, the Senators are at number 12. Number 11. Now they've lost 2 in a row. They're down 3 spots, even though they are 7-3 in their last 10. And again, home ice advantage in this series, I think, is going to be key. LA. So the Kings are number 11. And again, I think home ice advantage in that series against Edmonton is going to be critical, just because of the fact that the Kings' home record, they're 26-4-4 at home. They're 14-19-5 on the road. So yeah, home ice advantage is going to mean a lot in that series. And the Kings, if they want to have a chance in that series, I think need to stay ahead of the Oilers. But you know, can they? That's the thing. Number 10, staying in the same spot, 2-0-1 on the week, and it's crazy. They lose against San Jose, and then they go and they beat LA they beat LA at home. And this team, they're so confusing. Toronto, the Leafs are so confusing because, I mean, you can lose a game against San Jose, the worst team in the league. You lose in a shootout. Then you go and you beat LA. In LA, where they're incredible on home ice. What? It's the classic thing of playing down to your opponent. Toronto's really good at playing down to their opponents, and then they wonder why they lose. They're great at playing up to the opponents. When they're playing the good teams, they know they have to play good. They got to figure out, especially going into the playoffs. They got to start playing that better hockey on a more consistent basis, because it's with them potentially playing one of the two Florida teams. Yeah, they got to figure that out before the season's over. Number 9, speaking of a Florida team, they've won 2 in a row, and they actually stayed in the same spot. The Panthers, the defending champions. So Florida, they're currently 1 point behind. They're 1 point behind. They're 1 point behind Toronto. And again, it's them and Tampa. They're tied. They're tied with Tampa, and oddly enough, they have the exact same record, or no, not quite. Florida's 44-25-3. Tampa's 43-25-5. But they're right there. Tampa and Florida are right there. And honestly, if that's a first round matchup, oh boy, could that be interesting. We saw it last year. We might see it again. Speaking of Tampa, at number 8, going into the top row, Tampa Bay is a team that literally is saying, "Yeah, we're not done yet. We're not done being a contender for the cup." And I think Tampa Bay is going to be a very tough out, no matter who they play, whether it's Florida or whether it's Toronto. It's going to be a tough opponent to play against. Tampa Bay is an incredible team. They are, they want to show that, hey, you know what, we still can be this competitive team, and they're showing it. Number 7, this team, they move up 5 spots. They're 9-1 in their last 10. And holy cow, they just the playoff race in the West went from being pretty competitive to not really competitive anymore, because they've won 9 straight. The St. Louis Blues. You want to talk about getting hot at the right time. St. Louis has done that. And St. Louis, they're a team, I think they are going to overtake Minnesota. They're going to be the number 1 wild card team, which a St. Louis Vegas series, I give St. Louis a great shot at beating Vegas, especially with the way the Blues are playing right now. I think I give them a shot to beat Vegas, way more than Minnesota. But yeah, St. Louis, they were behind against Nashville, came back, won that game, had a big win against Colorado. And yeah, St. Louis is incredible right now. They are a wagon, and I see potential vibes of 2019 potentially happen with this Blues team. It could happen again. We'll see. Number 6. Moving down 4 spots, even though they're 8-2 in their last 10. They're 2-1. They went 2-1 on the week, But these other teams have just looked amazing. And that's Carolina. So the Canes are number 6. And I think they're going to be a tough opponent. They're going to be a tough opponent too. I think a lot of people are going to favor them against New Jersey. And it's, Carolina is a team. They're decent in the first 2 rounds. It's in that conference final that they seem to fall apart. Can they get to the conference final this year? I don't know. We will have to find out. But yeah, they're doing all right now. I mean, they're number 6, and even though they dropped 4 spots, they're still looking pretty decent. Speaking of looking pretty decent, this team, they actually stay in the same spot. They went 2-1 on the week. They're 7-2-1 in their last 10. Now, they did lose their last game, but they lost it to the St. Louis Blues, who are on an absolute heater, and that's Colorado. So, I mean, the Avalanche, they're going to be dangerous come playoff time, too. A playoff race or a playoff series between them and Dallas, I think, would be a lot of fun. I don't think that's going to happen, though. And when I get to that team, I will tell you why. But Colorado, they're very dangerous. They are number 5 this week, same as last week, and I think they could be a very, very dangerous team to play in the first round, no matter who they play. Number 4, they move up 2 spots. They're on a little heater of their own, and they have really, with the little heater that they are on, they have basically assured themselves of the Pacific Division title, and that is Vegas. So Vegas, number 4, and yes, I think they're going to win that division without a doubt now, because they are 9 points up on both Los Angeles and Edmonton. Neither one of them are catching Vegas. They're not. They're not going to catch Vegas. And it's just, I mean, Vegas, they're Vegas. I mean, they went 4-0 on the week, 6 wins in a row. Yeah, they're an incredible team right now. And whoever plays them in the first round, and if it is St. Louis, that'll be a fun series. Number 3, dropping 2 spots. They lost the 2 games they played this week, even though one of them was in extra time. And yeah, they dropped 2 spots. They're still going to be very dangerous, and they're still one of the best teams in the league in the standings, and that's the Capitals. So Washington is number 3 this week. I don't know where they came from this year. I really don't. Because they literally nobody expected this out of the Capitals this year. I mean, they have 103 points. They're looking phenomenal. And, whoever they play in the first round, which, God, if it is the New York Rangers, I don't know. I mean, Washington is one of those teams where you got to show what you got in the playoffs. You can have a great regular season all you want. It's playoffs that matter. And what will the Capitals do come playoff time? Number 2, moving up 1 spot. They've won 2 in a row. They're 7-3 in their last 10, and that's Winnipeg. So I got Winnipeg at number 2 this week. They are still a very, very good team. They are still one of the best teams in the league, and they're going to be an interesting out. They're going to be an interesting out too in the playoffs. The thing is, Winnipeg's not going to play who you think they might play. I honestly think Winnipeg is going to end up playing Colorado, because these guys at number 1, I'm telling you, they're going to catch them and they're going to pass the Jets. If I hold the magnet up the right way. Dallas. I think the Stars are going to catch them. I think Dallas is going to catch Winnipeg. They're going to pass Winnipeg, and they're going to win the division. I see that. That's what I see right now. The Dallas Stars are unstoppable right now. They've won 5 straight. They're 7-1-2. They've won 5 straight. I can't see them. I can't see. They're only 4 points behind. They've played the exact number of games. They're only 4 points behind. And people would say, well, how could they catch them? It's very easy. All they got to do is keep winning. Winnipeg's bound to lose a couple. I could be wrong. And of course, if I am wrong and Winnipeg holds off Dallas, then hey, I definitely say I was wrong. I think Dallas is going to catch them. I think Dallas is going to win the Central. We'll see what happens. There's still, they still have 9 games to play, but Dallas doesn't lose right now. And I think they're going to be a very, very dangerous team in the playoffs. And I do think Dallas, it's a feeling I have. It's a feeling I have that Dallas is going to overtake Winnipeg and win this division. We'll find out after the next 9 games. We'll find out whether I'm right or not. But there's this week's Power Performance Index. Let me know what you think in the comment section. Hit that like button, smash that like button. Also, to hit that subscribe button, that would be greatly, greatly appreciated. I love all you guys. Also, to share the video with everybody that you know. You can click the little bell to be notified anytime future videos are uploaded. And yeah, so we just got a couple more weeks left. And again, will I be right? Will the Dallas Stars catch the Winnipeg Jets and win the Central Division? Let me know what you think in the comments on that question too. And yeah, for this week's Power Performance Index, here it is. Let me know what you think about where the teams are. And yeah, like, comment, subscribe, share. I will see you guys later.